Have you ever sat in the kind of silence that doesn't just fill the room but seeps into your bones? The kind of silence that makes every tick of the clock sound like thunder in your ears? It's not just quiet, it's heavy. It's the sort of silence that forces you to confront every doubt you've tried to bury, every fear you've refused to name. And if you've ever cared for a woman who suddenly stopped texting, who left your calls hanging, who seemed to go from warm to distant, overnight, you know exactly what I mean. The shift is subtle. At first, fewer emojis, shorter replies, but then it turns into hours without a word, days without any sign of her. That's when the silence grows louder than any argument ever could. You start replaying every interaction, scanning every conversation for clues. Did you say something wrong? Did you come on too strong? Or worse, did she meet someone else? But here's the first truth most men never hear. That silence isn't always the beginning of the end. In fact, it can be the test you never knew you needed. It's not always a rejection. Sometimes it's her way of seeing if you're the same as every other man who's ever tried to win her over. Because whether you realize it or not, when a woman pulls back, it's like she's sending out a silent radar. She's scanning you not for what you do when it's easy, but for how you act when it feels like she's slipping away. She's watching if you'll spiral into desperation or if you'll stay grounded, and this is where most men fail. They panic. They start sending walls of text explaining things that were never asked. They fill the void with memes, calls, voice notes, trying to prove they care, trying to hold on to something slipping through their fingers. But the truth is, nothing kills attraction faster than a man who loses himself when the attention fades. See, a woman's silence isn't a random whim. It's not always a game. Sometimes it's a mirror. She wants to see if you'll break the pattern she's seen 1,000 times before. She wants to know if you'll become another guy who can't handle uncertainty, or if you're a man whose calm makes the world wonder what he knows that they don't. And that's the first sign of a man who stands apart. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't crumble the moment the energy shifts. He doesn't turn silence into a personal crisis. Instead, he stands tall in it, not because he's numb, but because he's rooted. Because his sense of worth was never dependent on someone else's constant reassurance. The second sign of a man who commands respect is understanding that his silence, when used correctly, isn't weakness, it's a force. Most men fear the quiet, thinking if they don't immediately respond, she slipped further away. But that's just insecurity in disguise. Real men know silence can be the loudest statement you make. When you don't rush to fill the space, you create room for her to feel your absence. And in that space, curiosity grows, wonder blooms. She starts to think, why isn't he chasing? Why does his life seem so full even when I'm not there? That's not manipulation, it's magnetism born of self-respect. The key is that your silence can't come from bitterness or mind games. It has to come from strength, from knowing you have things to build, goals to chase, a life to live that doesn't pause because someone else did. The third truth most men overlook is this: she's not punishing you, she's watching you. Women don't just listen to words, they watch energy. They feel shifts. And when something in the dynamic feels off, they instinctively pull back to observe more clearly. This isn't pettiness, it's feminine intuition. It's her way of checking if the connection was real or if she was carrying the relationship alone. She wants to know, when she stops feeding you attention, do you collapse? Do you lash out? Or do you stay balanced, steady, and unwavering? A woman doesn't want a man who needs her to regulate his emotions. She wants to feel like you can handle life's storms with or without her, because only then can she trust. That being close to you won't turn into a job of keeping you whole. And here's the fourth truth. Most men never learn. Stillness creates space for her emotions to catch up. A woman's heart moves like the ocean. Some days the tide rushes in with warmth and affection. Other days it pulls back into introspection. Your job isn't to force the tide to change, it's to stay present, calm, and grounded until it returns. Most men rush to close the emotional gap when a woman pulls away. They don't give her time to miss them, to remember why she felt safe with them in the first place. They force conversations, demand answers, try to solve problems that don't exist. But a man who can sit in silence with patience creates a space where a woman's feelings can settle. And in that space, she starts to remember your steadiness, your depth, your value. She starts to wonder how she ever thought pulling away would solve anything. Stillness doesn't mean doing nothing. It means not doing the wrong thing, which brings us to the fifth point. Confidence is proven not when the world is cheering you on, but when the world goes quiet. Any man can feel strong when she's calling, texting, sending selfies, or posting stories that make him feel included. But what about when the notifications stop? When the attention dries up? That's where confidence is tested. That's where your foundation is revealed. Do you keep your focus? Do you keep your sense of humor? Do you continue showing up for your own life? Or do you fold because the external validation disappeared? True confidence is built in the silence. It's what you do when no one is clapping. It's the discipline to keep building, growing, and moving forward even when the love you hoped for seems to have vanished. And here's the sixth truth. Nothing reactivates attraction faster than a man whose energy doesn't shift when she tests him. Most women don't consciously plan to pull back, but when they do, they're acutely aware of your reaction. If your energy stays the same, if you keep laughing with your boys, showing up at the gym, crushing your work, and living your life, she start to notice. She feel your absence like a sudden cold draft in a warm room, and that's when the script flips. She wonder, did he even notice I pulled back? Why isn't he chasing like everyone else? That curiosity is the spark of reactivated attraction, because women can't help but admire a man who was whole before she entered his life and remains whole when she steps back. The seventh pillar of masculine energy is purpose. Purpose is your gravity. It's what makes you magnetic even when you're silent. A man who's driven by a mission, a clear vision, a calling bigger than chasing approval radiates energy that people, women included, feel without him saying a word. Most guys get so distracted by a woman's emotional ups and downs that they lose track of their purpose. They drop their goals, abandon their passions, and revolve their days around trying to win back attention. But a man who keeps moving, who keeps building, who stays aligned with his mission no matter what, that man becomes unforgettable. Who's not ignoring her to play games. He's respecting himself enough to never let his life shrink down to a single relationship. And finally, the eighth truth is the hardest to accept. If she decides to leave, don't block her, don't beg, don't rage. Let her feel the full weight of your absence. Make your silence so profound, your life so rich, your vibe so magnetic that walking away from you feels like stepping out of warmth into the cold. You don't need dramatic speeches, cryptic posts, or attempts to make her jealous. The best goodbye is quiet strength. Because if you stay grounded in the storm, you become the man she remembers at night when the world goes dark. The one she can't replace with someone who crumbles under emotional pressure. Here's the ultimate truth. Most men never grasp. Silence is never your enemy. Your reaction to silence is. When the silence comes, you either let it drive you into frantic chasing, or you use it as a mirror to grow. Because silence reveals what's real. It shows whether you were pursuing her out of genuine desire or out of a desperate need for validation. It teaches you where your insecurities live and invites you to face them. It's not about punishing her or punishing yourself. It's about protecting your peace, maintaining your purpose, and becoming a man so solid that the world's chaos can't shake him. So the next time a woman goes quiet, don't panic. Don't try to control the outcome. Lean into your discipline. Keep your focus on your purpose. Stay present in your own life. Build yourself into the man you always promised yourself you'd become. A man whose energy is self-sustaining. A man whose rhythm doesn't skip a beat because of someone else's silence. Because when you move from desperation to discipline, everything changes. She might come back, she might not. But either way, you win. Because you've become a man who doesn't build himself hoping to be chosen. You build yourself to be undeniable. And if you felt this deep in your bones, drop a comment below saying, I don't chase. Because the men who don't chase, who stay rooted, who let silence refine instead of define them, those are the men who end. Up with the women who value strength over desperation. And if this video helped you see the silence for what it truly is, a sacred space to evolve, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and share this with a brother who needs to hear it. Stay strong, stay silent. And remember, the quieter you become, the more you can hear not just her intentions, but your own calling. And that calling will always lead you further than any chase ever could.